Okay, so today we are going to be talking about Mixtape. Just like I kind of teased in the previous video, this video was going to be kind of my opinions and follow up to when Potion Sword Run, who I will link up there in the cards. He did a video about this possibly being an industry plant because of the fact that this game is being sold as a small time indie game, even though there's a lot of red flags to that. But that's not the conversation we're going to be having today. As usual, we don't get to have the conversation we want because there are a lot of idiots on the internet that have a hive mind mentality that like to spread various lies. So we'll get into that shortly. But first of all, we're going to be taking a look at the Metacritic score, of course. As you can see, 85 on Metacritic, based on 31 critic reviews, and of course, including that famous 100 score, that 10 out of 10 from IGN, the one that everybody brings up, even though there's a lot of other sites that have also gave it that score. A lot of sites that gave it a 9 out of 10 also. So it is clearly popular with some people. Some people are enjoying the game quite a lot. But we're going to go ahead and play the trailer, and I'll go ahead and commentate over it here. I will be muting the trailer at about the 35-second mark because it is going to cue into a Smashing Pumpkins song, and I don't want to get copyrighted. So let's go ahead and start it off.
Tonight, we're invited to Camille Cole's beach party. It's the tits, it's the jam, everyone's gonna be there. College kids, rich kids, athletes, horse girls, skaters. It's teenage high society. Right now, we have no booze, but we do have some leads. We'll start at my house, then on to Cassandra's, free drinks at our secret hideout, then arrive beachside at 9:45 p.m.
No way.
I did it last time.
I look like a child. I can't hand over money with these little hands. Slater, you do.
Okay. So, as you could see, based on the initial impression of the game, this game is about 3 teenagers, presumably at the end of their high school career, and they're going to be moving on to bigger things in life, and they're going to be having one last night of fun and debauchery, of basically being true besties, of course. We, of course, have 2 female characters and 1 male character, or if you would believe some of the grifters, we have 1 female character, 1 male character, and 1 transgender character, which, of course, you got to throw that in for DEI callbacks, of course. You got to have that, even though it's actually a lie. They lie to you actively and unabashedly, but that is the internet, and it's allowed, so whatever. But anyways, you can see there's a lot of fantastical imagery. As you can tell, this is one of these artsy-fartsy type games. Basically a visual novel with some interactive gameplay elements involved, including that little infamous tongue-kissing scene. You could see based on a lot of the musical acts that they're announcing, they have quite a large soundtrack in this game, which of course is part of the reason some people are saying this is not really an indie game, obviously, because most indie studios don't really have that kind of budget. If they do license tracks, they might license 1 or 2 typically, because that stuff can be very expensive. Now, they might have possibly got a little bit of a deal, considering that some of these acts may have all been under the same label. And so they could have got a discount deal on that, possibly, or something of that nature. But I digress. We're going to look at some of what you can expect to find. If you just type in Mixtape right here, you can expect to find all kinds of videos like these, including this one from the guy wearing the Dollar Tree Gandalf face beard. You'll see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of the people that do the grifting stuff that will, if they don't outright lie, they will at least push an agenda that is at the very least omitting some truth to the matter. Now, you could of course criticize reviews all you want, but clearly Simon Cardy, when they gave a 10 out of 10 for this game was something that was truly special to them. You don't give a game a perfect score unless you feel that way, because reviews are ultimately opinions. And then you have all kinds of people that will spout opinions like, oh, this review must be paid for. This must be paid for because clearly, why else would this game get such good scores? And those of us that have brains and also know how to read know that that is actually illegal. It's technically been illegal for a while, though the FTC back in 2024 has applied major fines for people that do such things. This was during the FTC when it was chaired by Lena Khan that proposed these rules. As you could see, fake or false consumer reviews, testimonials, and celebrity testimonials. That is, of course, buying positive or negative reviews. Remember that Leslie Benzies, who claimed that the negative reviews for Mind's Eye were paid for? Do you remember that, Leslie? Oh, surely those negative reviews weren't because the game ended up being a broken mess and people didn't like that. No. It had to have been some kind of sabotage and yada, yada. You can read this for yourself. This is on the FTC website. As far as I know, this is still the operating procedure, even though the administrations have changed. But essentially, if anybody is found guilty of these things, they are going to be penalized with fines. I believe they started like $50,000 and up. So, I mean, it's possible. It's possible that, hey, maybe they could be paying out reviews. Maybe IGN got a big fat check. Maybe they got 100,000 and they'll be like, okay, we'll take that $50,000 fine hit. We're still going to be pocketing 50,000 and give this game a 10 out of 10, whatever. I guess we could be that disingenuous to think that. But I digress. There's a lot to talk about with this game here. Of course, we could talk about Annapurna Interactive. This is the publisher of the game. They've published quite a lot of games through the history. You've heard of a lot of them, of course. A lot of the indie darlings that you've heard of over the past decade or so, they've had a hand in them. And this publisher is pretty much almost exclusively deals with that kind of stuff. It's pretty interesting when you think of it that way. But anyways, why is that important? Well, Annapurna Interactive was founded as a subsidiary of Annapurna Pictures, which you might have heard of them. They put out all kinds of films that you might have heard of, including Oscar-winning films like Zero Dark 30 and Her, among others. But what is this Annapurna Interactive, Annapurna Games, Annapurna Films? What is this about? Well, look at this name right here. This is one of the founders of Annapurna Interactive. I don't know if you could see that clearly. Megan Ellison. Megan Ellison. Who is she? Who is Megan Ellison? Ellison. Doesn't that sound a little bit familiar? Well, if you keep up with things, it probably does. So Megan Ellison, of course, as it mentions here, she founded Annapurna Pictures. Of course, as we discovered also, Annapurna Interactive, which is part of Annapurna Pictures. She was a Time 100 member of the most influential people in the world. So clearly, she has some credibility. And this is the key line right here. This right here. She is the daughter of Senti billionaire Larry Ellison, a name that a lot of people are probably not familiar with if they do not pay attention. But it is a very relevant name. Oh, by the way, she's openly lesbian. Okay, so maybe there's some credence to this game pushing an agenda. Who knows? But I digress. I digress. Let's talk about Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison, right here. Right here. This guy right here, who's 80 years old, and he looks like this. This doesn't look like 80 years old to me, personally. Looks a lot younger than that. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? So he is a founder of a company called Oracle. Oracle, of course, is known to a lot of people to be involved with computer systems and computer software. You might have heard of a software platform called Java. That is Oracle. Oracle has a lot of history with networking and all kinds of stuff. They are definitely a very foundational company when it comes to computing technology. So, if you're familiar with that stuff at all, you're certainly familiar with the name. Now, if you want to know more about, Larry Ellison, particularly his political beliefs, you probably are not surprised that he is a big supporter of the big man. And there's a pretty good reason for that. Despite, of course, all of the progressive ideals that his daughter allegedly has. Well, for one, he is worth over $200 billion. So you can imagine that being friendly to the big man is probably very good for his financial benefit. I would imagine so. Apparently, someone did some defacing on his mega yacht right there. And of course, it's also important to note that there is a certain company called Paramount. Guess who runs that company? His son. Good old Paramount, one of the biggest movie and television studios out there. And if you recall, they recently have acquired Warner Brothers Discovery, or at least they're attempting to. It's probably going to go through because I don't foresee any reason the government won't approve of that deal, especially given that it would be mutually beneficial for them. There is also an individual called Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss, who founded a publication called The Free Press, is now running CBS News. This is all very relevant when you consider that CBS News, who runs a news program called 60 Minutes, had published a news story about CCOT, which is a huge prison facility that is in El Salvador that was being used to take in immigrants from the United States that were deported to serve their days there. You probably heard of CCOT, CECOC. Barry Weiss killed that story from being shown on CBS mere hours before it was set to air. Makes you think, doesn't it? Now, you could still watch that. It is available to watch online, but a lot of people that maybe aren't aware of that kind of stuff, they cannot see that stuff. And fun fact, did you know, everybody that talks about the social credit system, the surveillance state of China, that was Oracle. Oracle is actually the company that created that problem for Chinese citizens that maybe want to live in a more free society, well, Oracle is the reason that things are the way they are for them. Now, it's probably, a little over sensationalized, given that we're getting our perspective from our media and given that the two nations are antagonistic and all that good stuff. But I digress. There's definitely some truth to that story, and Oracle wants to do the same here in our country. Have you ever wondered why we have all these flock cameras that are supposedly for catching speeders and catching criminals and stuff like that? Supposedly, allegedly, that's what they're there for. But do you think it just stops there? I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember reading certain books by certain authors, including one who has a massively bastardized children's film that completely destroys everything that he wrote, that completely pisses on it. I wonder what children's film that could be that's been directed by Andy Serkis and has Seth Rogen as a voice actor. I really do wonder. But when people say they don't play Mixtape because it is woke and doesn't have much gameplay, well, I don't play it because it's funded by Larry Ellison's daughter. We are not the same. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out the most recent video that I did right above my head. And then, of course, in the other corner, the algorithm presumably is going to send something fire to you. I hope it does. And don't forget, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe down below. And that's going to be the last line.